think if I can't really recall a time where they've had the BOT meeting and then that same day they do the press conference. Usually it's like the next day or a few days after. So, maybe it'll be Friday, maybe it'll be Monday, who knows? But yeah, I'm glad to see that this is finally starting to. Hopefully, all three hires will have been made, and this will finally kind of be checked off the list of everything needed to be done this offseason, and then we can kind of turn our attention towards, all right, rest of the offseason coming up. Transfer portal opens up January 2nd here in a few weeks. Let's get ready for that.
Well, on the fact that we have the trustees meeting 24 hours from now, cause for celebration, and that's what will lead us into our Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9. So again, Board Trustees meeting tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. How long do those meetings last? It's not
this is like
super long, right?
This is like the only real item on the agenda, so this should be a pretty quick one tomorrow. I think it's the first item on there, so we'll see. It should hopefully be relatively quick, but who knows?
I'm interested because, of course, when you talk about contracts, we're going to get the details of the length and obviously the annual salary and all that kind of stuff. I'm interested to see what they're paying Briles and if he is indeed going to end up being one of the more higher paid assistants in all of college football. Because again, and I know TCU was obviously private, but I think I saw somewhere he was around 1.5 because he's making about 1.2 at Arkansas. Got a little bit of a bump to go to TCU. So are we talking in the $2 million range to come here? Because that's about what Clayton White is making.
So, real quick, according to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, a paper out there that covers TCU, Kendall's was making 1.4 billion, or not billion, Jesus.
Jeez, could you imagine?
Oh my God, no. Sorry. Let me rephrase. Kendall Briles was making $1.4 million. Certainly not billion. I don't think we're there yet with inflation and everything. $1.4 million. So that's not, for reference, that's more than their head baseball coach makes. So
yes.
So I could imagine this thing gets closer to 2. I'm not sure, but I think it depends on, how desperate was South Carolina to kind of get him to be the guy, right? I mean, he would kind of have some leverage then to get his salary bumped up to 2. So we'll see.
I imagine it also has to do with, how sought after is he. And I don't recall seeing him be rumored about or talked about with other openings at offensive coordinator in this cycle. I imagine there were some interest probably, but I don't know who specifically Carolina would have been competing head-to-head with other than TCU. But, yeah, to come to a new place, you're going to expect a bump. So, I don't know, maybe 1.78, somewhere in that range, if not up to the $2 million range. Because, again, you're going to want to give him more than what he was making at TCU.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, that's ultimately what's going to take to get here, right? I mean, I think South Carolina is probably a better job than TCU, coming back to the SEC. I think there has to be a little bit more money involved, right? I mean, it's another coordinator job for him. And, yeah, I think South Carolina really needed to get a good one this cycle. And, there have been rumors out there about Decker and John David Baker, but I think South Carolina will probably feel pretty happy with Kendall Briles as the OC.
And again, as we've talked about all week, it's a splashy hire, one that generates excitement. It's quite literally exactly what everybody was asking for. It is a college-specific offense. It's a guy that has absolutely zero NFL experience. All of his experience has been in college. It's one that if Lenora Sellers came back, and we'll get into him a little bit later on in the hour, you feel like it's an offense that he can be very successful in. Now, yeah, you're going to have to go out there in the portal and probably get some more skilled, specific guys to be a part of this offense. But still, there's a lot of hope and optimism with what this is, as opposed to if you just went out there and got another pro-style guy that kind of fits the mold of what you've been doing for the past 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely needed to do something different. I mean, I think everyone kind of knew that heading in. Of this pro-style stuff does not work at South Carolina. Now, we will see how this veer and shoot, air raid type of offense works. I think the thing that I've kind of figured from this, we'll see how it looks with who South Carolina has at quarterback. But I think this offense is going to be best served to have a mobile quarterback in there, whether it is Lenore Sellers. You know, I think I've seen people talking about Aaron Nolan could be very good in this type of offense. We'll see. Wasn't very impressed by him this year with the reps that he did get. But I think that is what South Carolina needs here is somebody mobile to operate this offense. And then, you're talking about it being, tempo and hurry up at times. That's something that might be an adjustment if it happens very frequently, every single play. But I think it's something that is completely different. And I think we'll definitely bring a smile to some people's faces as the season gets going here.
Well, you mentioned Aaron Nolan, and rightfully so. We were critical of his development this year because by season's end, it seemed that Cutter Woods had passed him on the depth chart because he was the one that was getting to play in garbage time, in like the Coastal game and stuff like that. When we kind of thought, when Aaron Nolan came in, he would be the heir apparent to Sellers, given their similar skill set and obviously his high ranking coming out of high school. But is he a victim of Shula at that point? Because we saw the regression of Lenore Sellers, so I don't think it's unreasonable to think that Mike Shula, in his involvement with Aaron Nolan, maybe set him back too. And who knows? Again, it's all dependent on what happens with Sellers and the decision that he's going to end up making. But maybe a guy like Kendall Briles can get the most out of Aaron Nolan to where maybe he is your best option if Sellers does not decide to come back at quarterback next year. He just needs some more refining and fine-tuning in the offseason.
I mean, look, the high star rating was given to Aaron Nolan coming out of high school for a reason, right? It was not by accident. I mean, he was a good quarterback at the high school level now, and he went to Ohio State. I mean, he was recruited by, a very, prominent school in college football. So one can imagine some of that magic is still there. It's just up to, if he does stay at South Carolina, that is, it's up to a guy like Kendall Briles to kind of go ahead and unlock those capabilities that we just didn't get a chance to really see it all this year. And, I think he would be a nice option to have at quarterback. I still feel like either way, you got to go out there and get a transfer quarterback, whether that is Josh Hoover, maybe even a more, let's say Lenore does leave. I think maybe go out there and get more of that dual threat type of quarterback. Can Air be that guy? I'm not sure. Could Cutter Woods, how would he look in this offense too? I think is another big question. I think Cutter would have probably done pretty well in the Shula offense since I think he would be a good pro style fit, but I think he could also be a good fit in this Briles offense. I mean, who's to say, honestly?
Well, that is a very fair question to ask, not just for quarterback, but all the positions on offense is having to look at this and say, okay, are you a fit for what this offense is going to be, right? Because veer and shoot is much different than a pro-style offense where your skill set may not necessarily translate to what Kendall Briles is going to ask you to do. And I think that's especially on the offensive line because we played the clip yesterday about him talking about, tempo and what he's expecting out of his center and offensive lineman to where you got to be a little bit more athletic. And to the guys on this offensive line or the offensive line room now for South Carolina and the guys coming in as freshmen, do they fit exactly what he needs out of his offensive lineman? It's a big question too.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. I mean, this is going to be a real adjustment, I think, for everyone, right? It's completely different from the offense that South Carolina ran this past season. Now, and also maybe there will be mass exodus in the portal and bringing in, a lot of different guys. I think we've heard Shane Beamer kind of talk about how, he's had conversations with guys and they've been really good and that the team doesn't really feel like they need a ton of adjustments on the roster. Like I think they have the right players in place, but now that you have, this type of offense coming in, do you have those right players to run that offense effectively. And if not, I think they will definitely lean heavily into the portal to go get those guys.
We'll continue talking about the portal and discuss how Kendall Briles is going to be involved with that coming up here in a couple weeks when that does open, as well as how many Gamecocks have officially entered their name into the portal at this point, because there was a new one the other day we didn't get a chance to talk about just yet. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Ed and Jack Feltry along with you on your Wednesday here on The Game.
Are you a small business owner, a church, or other entity in need of a new HVAC system? Well, AAA Heating and Air has exciting news for you then. AAA now offers financing to qualified organizations to aid them in installing a new light commercial HVAC system. It is as easy as calling AAA Heating and Air for a quote or finding them online today at callAAAtoday.com. Tell them Bob and Sherry sent you. At AAA Heating and Air, they've got your back. They're offering up to 12-month payment plans on repairs with no credit check required. That's right. No need to worry about your credit score. As long as you're a homeowner with a valid bank account, you'll be good to go. Take control of your comfort today by calling AAA Heating and Air at 803-677-1500. Again, the number to call, 803-677-1500, and breathe easy again.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's Ed and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. We'll get back into the transfer portal conversation coming up in just a moment, but always enjoy y'all's perspective and thoughts on things happening, especially as we close in on the hire of Kendall Briles as the new offensive coordinator. Again, the Board of Trustees meeting set for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to finalize the contracts with both him as well as what we expect to be a couple of the other assistant coaches being hired too. Ray is on the AAA Heat and Air phone lines, wants to weigh in. Ray, appreciate the call as always. What's on your mind today, man?
Hey, well, good morning, Tyler. Good morning, Jack. I'll tell you, life can sometimes be reciprocal, and it's amazing. And I was thinking about, to me, it's like the stars were lined up that we got Kendall Briles out. And the fact that, Beamer was able to recruit Duckworth, and the fact that Briles has been recruiting Duckworth since he was at Arkansas. I thought that's pretty amazing. And I think the fact that they can work together now, and I'm not counting him out for next year. If somehow Lenore decides to go NFL, and if that's what he does, that's great. But, man, for selfish reason, I hope he comes back. But could you imagine a guy like Duckworth playing behind Lenore? I mean, how great that would be for the future. Because I do think Duckworth is a guy that's going to hopefully will get some playing time next year. And I'm just really excited about what we can do. And I think Nick Harbor definitely needs to come back. And can you imagine Nick Harbor in that offense with Briles? I mean, they could be tremendous. And also, Jack, I'm just going to ask you, and I don't expect you to say anything right now, what you might say, but at the presser, I can't wait to hear what you're going to ask Coach Briles. I know you're thinking about it. Don't give it away or anything like that. But, guys, that's one presser I'm really looking forward to. But thanks for letting me talk.
Absolutely. Ray, appreciate it as always. 803-404-6100. Do you have and you don't have to say the specific question. Do you have a topic at the top of your mind?
Did you guys make a change last week? No, I'm joking. I'm teasing. I kid. Actually, Duckworth is an interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, Ray. Thanks for the call. That was one name we actually didn't mention. He is right. Him and Briles go back. I mean, all the way back to Briles' time at Arkansas. Landon posted the photos yesterday on his Twitter of him with Briles at TCU and Arkansas. So those two go way back. So I think that would be interesting in that, how much did that kind of play into your decision to come to South Carolina of getting to work with a guy that you've recruited for so long, didn't get in, either recruiting cycles, but now you get the chance to coach him here at South Carolina. So I think that's an interesting question. I have a few different topics in mind whenever that press conference does take place, like what sold you on South Carolina, things like along those lines. But Duckworth is definitely another interesting question to probably be asked, honestly, whenever this press conference does happen.
And it's crazy looking at the photo they posted yesterday where he said, Coach Briles was the first to offer me, let's work, in reference to him being hired. So, because Briles was last at Arkansas back in 2022, I'm assuming this picture of him and Duckworth is from Duckworth's freshman year of high school at the very latest, right? Which, he looks like a monster then. It's insane how, big this kid is. And obviously that was, 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, I guess, at the latest. They obviously have a relationship that goes way back, and how that factors in, we'll see. It all boils down to obviously the decision that Sellers is going to make first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of it does, I think, depend on what Lenores does in terms of what South Carolina is doing at quarterback next year. If Lenores is back, that's their guy. But honestly, I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent on whether he comes back or not, because I still feel like they can be okay without him. I think we kind of saw this year, he really wasn't that great, right? And how much of that has to do with Mike Shula? How much of that has to do with his own, play on the field? After all, he is the one on the field, right? I don't think Shula did him any favors of the season, but there were just so many times where it's get rid of the ball, man. Get rid of that ball.
Yeah.
And he holds on to it, takes an unnecessary sack. I mean, he definitely regressed in so many ways this season.
Well,
right?
And again, it very much seemed like they were trying to fit him into something he wasn't comfortable with Mike Shula. And again, with Sellers' skill set, it seems to me that the type of offense that Briles is going to come in here and run very much fits what makes Sellers so great. And we played the clip yesterday where Briles was talking about running RPOs 80% of the time at TCU, and that was with Josh Hoover, who's not a traditional dual threat type of quarterback. So can that number even increase with the Sellers, where you're really putting in his hands to make those decisions at the line of scrimmage? Because, again, we saw RPOs get mixed in with the Shula offense, but not be run to the same high level that we would have liked, because, you saw Sellers have so much success with that in the past. So is that something that, we can expect to increase next year if Sellers does come back? I think so. Again, it's all his decisions. The ball's in his court. We don't have a timetable for that. Again, he's got basically another month to decide. But given how important that role is going to be next year, as quarterback always is, if I'm Shane Beamer, I'm like, hey, give me some insight as soon as possible, because I really need to know what direction we're going at quarterback if you're not going to be here next year.
And the other thing is, and Shane talked about this last week, is coaches that are interested in this position are kind of wondering, hey, am I going to have Lenoris here next year? Am I going to have Nick Harbor here next year? Which are valid questions, because that is your leading receiver on offense, and that's your top quarterback that can be fixed, I think. I think he is not beyond fixing. Like like Lenoris Sellers can certainly get back to being that guy. And I think he could do really, really well in this offense because of what you just mentioned right there. The 80% RPOs, that feels like it is right up Lenoris's alley. And let's be honest, I'm very interested to see what I still feel like he's probably getting a first-round draft grade, even though I don't think he necessarily should be a first-round pick right now. He just did not play like it this year. Like, if I'm a team right now maybe you're going off the potential alone, but from what we saw this year, just did not look like that quarterback that you want to go out there and take with a first-round pick. And maybe he does come back to school next year, and maybe he does really have a great year, similar to what like a KJ Jefferson had, who really did flourish in the Kendall Briles offense because of the RPOs and how much that play style and play calling is catered to a quarterback like that. That is a dual threat like Sellers.
Yeah, and again, Sellers still has that decision to make. And I sent you this article yesterday. Chris Hummer of CBS Sports put out this article talking about the transfer portal quarterback carousel, and he did position that if Sellers were to enter the portal, he'd be the most sought-after quarterback in the cycle. Out of all the possibilities of either staying, going to the NFL, or going to the portal, quite frankly, I put the portal probably at option number 3, because, again, he got offered more money to leave South Carolina last year, right? The $4 million a year to go to Auburn or whatever it was, and he decided to stay. So the money doesn't seem to be something that's going to take Sellers away from here. Again, I just think if he's not going to be here next year, that'll be because he's, like you said, a first-round draft-graded quarterback and would much rather just go and do that instead. Because, again, ideally for him, you'd be a later-round pick or later first-round pick, and you go to a place with already an established quarterback. You can sit and learn for a couple years, which I think would benefit him the best. And, again, I still lean towards that. My thinking that's what he's going to do. Now, I hope I'm wrong on that and that he does come back next year, because that'd be phenomenal, and you're not worrying about your quarterback as much in the offseason because you feel like he's going to be able to thrive in this new offense. But yeah, I kind of put the transfer option at the bottom of that list of things that I think Sellers would do.
Yeah, I don't think transfer is, of the 3 options, I think it's the least likely to happen. But, my opinion continues to sway on every single week whether or not Lenoris is going to come back or whether he's going to go to the draft. For a time, I really did feel like he's going to come back, and then I felt like after the Clemson game, I thought, okay, he's going to the draft. But now that they've got the coordinator in place, I really do feel like he would benefit so much from coming back for one more year. Like, what is the harm in coming back other than, look, you have 2 years of eligibility left. It's not like next year is it for him, right? Like, if he has a great year next season, then great. He can go off to the draft and be that top 5 pick that everyone envisioned him to be heading into this season. But if not, if he does have another so-so year, well, guess what? He does have another year of eligibility in his back pocket. But I think he would really do well in this offense and really prove to be that first-round pick because he didn't prove it to anyone this year that he looked like a first-round pick.
So if he does come back, what would our expectations be? We'll discuss that coming up next, as well as talking about some other familiar quarterback names once again in the transfer portal. That's coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltree with you on your Wednesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. Talking transfer portal, talking the future of South Carolina. Now that we know Kendall Briles will be hired as the offensive coordinator with the Board of Trustees meeting coming up tomorrow. To carry on our conversation for the last segment, if I had the crystal ball, right? I could look into the future and say, Lenore Sellers is coming back, and he will play in the Kendall Briles offense. I can tell you nothing else about what happens next year, tell you nothing else about the other players that decide to stay. If I just give you the context that Sellers is coming back in this offense, your expectations for next year become what?
That this team has the potential to be good. I think just based off of Lenoris alone, I think you set the bar. Like, you know what you can get with Lenoris, right?
Yep.
You can get back to that player from 2 years ago who, quite frankly, I think could be even better than he was 2 seasons ago in this type of offense. I think this offense is so much more catered to him. Like, it is a complete night and day difference from Mike Shula's offense, which was definitely not catered to the type of quarterback that Lenoris is, versus the Kendall Briles offense, which 1,000% is. Go look at the tape on KJ Jefferson. Look at the numbers. It's clear as crystal day. Now, that's only one piece to the puzzle, though, right? I think Lenoris alone could make South Carolina a much improved team because we know what we can get from him.
Yeah.
But I will say this. He's one piece to the puzzle, right? Like, you got to get a good running back in here, right? You have to beef up your offensive line, which hopefully you're going to be doing with a new offensive line coach running the show. So a lot of other parts and pieces need to fall into place for South Carolina from a player personnel standpoint. But Lenoris being at the middle of everything would be certainly ideal, I think, heading into next season.
Yeah, I think with no other context, I can tell you this offense is going to be better just based on the scheme, and I think it's going to fit what Sellers' skill set is a lot more. But you're right. This offense also thrives on having a good, solid running back, which right now you don't have. You're losing Oscar Attaway, you're losing Rasul Faison, and those guys didn't really do a ton for you this year in general. You need to hopefully be able to go out and get a solid, experienced, hopefully, running back that fits into the system, much like, Rocket Sanders did when he was at Arkansas. And I went back yesterday and I was skimming through the Arkansas-South Carolina game from 2022 when Kendall Briles was obviously calling the plays for the Razorbacks. And, man, it was fun to watch Rocket Sanders operate in that offense. And obviously he's just a physical, downhill type of runner that ran over some people in that game, which was interesting to watch, especially knowing that he would eventually end up at South Carolina, 2 seasons, 2 seasons later. But that's a big key. Again, we talked about the offensive linemen that fit the system. What's your receiver situation going to look like? Now, again, Harbor, I think, can thrive in this offense as well. If he decided to come back, it's an offense where you can hit some big plays. And again, TCU really good at explosives this year. And explosives always a part of the Kendall Briles offense, but TCU really good at that this year. And I think that's something that we kind of felt like Harbor was hitting a stride with that this year, right? To where it wasn't every single game, but you had several of those explosive touchdowns throughout the season, including most recently in the Clemson game a couple weeks ago. And I feel like that could be a featured part of his role in the Kendall Briles offense if he decided to come back too.
Yeah, all the TCU fans complaining about how they do a lot of third down slants. Well, I hate to break it to you, but Nick Harbor's kind of made to be that slant guy, right? I'm surprised, honestly, that we did not see more of that this year, right? Like, we talk about, just let Harbor run 40 yards downfield and throw it to him deep. We saw that sometimes this year. But honestly, I think back to, remember the Vanderbilt game where Harbor caught that slant, but it was the play after Lenoris got drilled.
And they blew it dead.
They blew it dead.
Yep.
When he had already caught the ball and would have been off to the races, I think he would have scored a touchdown, but at the very least, he probably picks up 50, 60 yards right there. So, I mean, that's what he can do. He's a track star for a reason. So having that in your offense next year would be solid. I think Nick's a different case where I think he could be ready to go to the draft. He showed me a lot this year. This was a giant step forward for him, and I think taking the year off from doing track and focusing fully on football was massive for him, right? I mean, his numbers were solid, especially down the stretch. That said, he's got one more year left. I think he could really benefit again from another year. I I'm trying to think of what round he would be drafted. Like, where do we think he could ultimately be picked? Like middle rounds, probably.
I think because of his freakish athleticism, there's a good chance. And I haven't looked at any updated, mock drafts or anything like that. But it's not insane to think that he could be a maybe second or third round guy just based on the athleticism alone. Because again, he's one of those guys like we talked about with Nicky Minwori. When he goes to the combine, they're gonna be drooling over him, right? He's got the build, he's got the speed, obviously. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a team took him relatively high in the draft based on his upside potential alone.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and that could be, I don't know, that could be enough to lure him away from South Carolina and decided to declare. Going to be very interesting, and that would be a huge loss because it's not every day you can just find a Nick Harbor in the recruiting cycle and in the portal, right? I mean, maybe go get Trey'Dez Green from LSU. I don't know, but it's going to be tough to replace a guy like that. So, I think a lot of South Carolina's success does hinge on the fact of, like ultimately, are you getting these two guys back? Are you getting LaNorris and Nick back next year? If so, okay, you have your core on offense in place to get this thing going. Now you go out there and find the other pieces to build around those guys. But if you lose them, it's like, all right, well, Vandrevius Jacobs would be your leading receiver coming back, and you're kind of you're kind of figuring out the quarterback room because none of those guys have true experience of being a starter in the SEC, and maybe that's where you go more into the portal for those needs.
Speaking of portal quarterbacks, again, the portal doesn't open until January 2nd, but as we've seen here at Carolina, and you had Jerron Willis go in the other day as the latest one, you can announce that you're intending to enter the portal even a couple weeks before it officially opens, and there's been a couple of guys this week that have entered their names in the portal that have become regular visitors, it seems. Starting off with Jackson Arnold, who will be seeking his third different school after starting at Oklahoma, transferring after the bad season last year, comes to Auburn, and by the end of the year, he's gotten benched for Ashton Daniels, who played against Alabama in the Iron Bowl a couple weeks ago. So now Jackson Arnold will go to his third different school. Does another Power 4 team give him a chance? Has he worn out his welcome at the Power 4 level at this point?
I think he's cooked. I don't know what the answer is for him at this point. I think he's definitely worn out his welcome, especially just in the SEC. I mean, he could definitely, I think, wind up at a not an SEC school, but maybe a different Power 4 school, maybe a high G5 school. I think he would really benefit. Honestly, there's going to be multiple places that need a new quarterback heading into next year. I think he could definitely wind up being a G5 type of guy and flourish there. I just don't think he was made for being in the SEC, right? Highly recruited, coming out of high school, winds up at Oklahoma. Just a bad situation last year. The offensive line stunk for Oklahoma last season, and then this year transfers to Auburn, and just another bad situation there. Hugh Freeze gets fired. I mean, just not good for him. So I think definitely we could see him end up elsewhere, but probably not at the P4 level. We'll see, though.
Yeah, I mean, South Florida, North Texas, those kind of places. I don't know if they're necessarily in the market for quarterbacks, but something like that in the American or something along those lines, I feel like is a landing spot we could realistically see him at. And then Max Johnson, who has got to be going on one of the oldest quarterbacks or one of the oldest players in college football next year, entering the portal once again after he started his career at LSU, transferred to Texas A&M, has now spent the last couple years at North Carolina, got injured last year, got benched this year. Do you know what the first game that Max Johnson started in college was?
Well, I know he's back all the way to 2020. He's been like a senior for like 3 years now. I don't get it. I'll take a guess though. The first game he played in.
The first game he started.
First game he started.
Yes.
Shoot, I mean, I couldn't tell you. Probably 2020 at some point, right?
It was 2020. It was the infamous Florida shoe throwing game. When it was really foggy and they had to do like the Skyview cam the entire game. And Florida, who was headed to the SEC championship, had the situation where he threw the LSU player's shoe to one of the Florida DBs. And that's a moment where Florida's seemingly never recovered since then. That was Max Johnson's first start in college football.
Not bad.
5 years ago.
Not bad. 3 touchdowns, no picks. 21 of 36 isn't great, but Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he has any eligibility left.
Well, he's
for
gotten
that.
injured a couple times.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah, his brother Jake also entered the tight end, also entered the portal. So one can imagine those two will end up. This has got to be Max Johnson's last year of eligibility, though, right?
I think because he would have had the COVID year for coming in 2020. He got injured last year in their or 2024 in their first game. So if I'm thinking correctly, and again, eligibility is a funny thing when it comes to COVID. I want to say 2026 should be his last year of college football.
Like, this dude is barely a year younger than me, and I'm 25.
Listen,
like, it's crazy.
I met Max when he was at Oconee County High School his sophomore year. That was almost a decade ago. Like, it is insane. And he was I think he was a 5-star coming out of high school. So he's been like he's been talked about for almost a decade now in the college football realms, either as a prospect coming out or in his time in college football, and that'll continue on somewhere in 2026. It is crazy. It's insane.
It's wild. It's wild. I'm ready for all these 6th year, 7th year guys to be out here. I want to go back to the days of you just give everyone 5 years, right? Give everyone a 5-year timetable, and then that's it, right? Like, we don't need guys that are going to be 30 years old in a few years to be on college football teams right now.
So we'll see where those two guys end up. Yes, they are frequent visitors, frequent flyers of the transfer portal for quarterbacks. Coming up next, a new segment for Wednesdays. Tell you what that is coming up next. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry on your Wednesday on the Game. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Sarah and Jack Veltri along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. And as we move towards the end of the year, on into 2026, going to start introducing some new daily segments for conversation. And one of those is going to be Would You Rather Wednesday, where I'll pose a question for the both of us. We'll debate it back and forth on what we choose between a couple of options relevant to whatever's happening in sports. So, Jack, I will start you with the first edition of Would You Rather Wednesday, where I ask today, would you rather be a fan of Tulane or James Madison as of this moment right now, where your football program sits getting set for its first appearance in the college football playoff?
I don't know. That's a good question. I like this. Personally, just right now,
Yes,
right now, I'd probably say JMU.
Okay. Why is that?
You know, I like the job that Bob Chesney has done there. I think JMU is playing really good football right now. And honestly, after the season ends, when it comes down to it, I kind of like the hire that JMU made more than, Will Hall at Tulane. Billy Napier has won in the Sun Belt. There's a reason why he's called Sun Belt Billy. I mean, right? He did it at Louisiana for multiple years, had a lot of success there. I think he can come back and do some good things here at JMU. It just seems like any coach that now takes over at James Madison automatically just has immediate success. Kurt Cignetti, Chesney now in his 2 years there, and now Billy Napier is going to take over in 2026. I like the future of JMU football just because they've always been pretty good for a handful of years now, and I think that will continue regardless of what happens in this game. I think they can go out here and play well with Oregon, but we'll see.
Yeah, look, both James Madison and Tulane are at distinct disadvantages when it comes to their opponents and their draws, having to go on the road to Oregon and to Ole Miss in reference to what Tulane's going to have to do. I don't know, though. I think I'd probably go with Tulane. And look, both programs are in the same situation of being in the playoff for the first time ever, as well as losing their head coach, John Summerall. And I thought it was a fake account, but apparently it was his real account that put out the picture yesterday of him with like the split uniform and hat. Did you see that? Where it's like it's an edited photo of him wearing a half Florida, half Tulane polo and like visor.
Oh yeah, it's his.
Yeah, it's real.
So it's his profile picture.
Yeah,
and then it's his heading.
Yes, it's saying like, "Hey, this is what I'm bouncing right now." So both programs in the situation where they're losing their coach, so there is always concern about starting over with somebody new and all that kind of stuff. Tulane, though, is a program I feel like, much like JMU, will continue to be successful. However, I feel like there's more of a path for Tulane to consistently be in this position of being the playoff representative from the G5, assuming that stays going forward, compared to JMU. Because, like, JMU had to have the most insane circumstance fall their way with Duke winning the ACC just to allow them in, right? Like, the American is viewed as the highest-end G5 conference.
Agreed.
To where I think more often than not, and yes, I know Boise State made it in last year from the Mountain West, but more often than not, I feel like the G5 representative will come from the American. So I almost feel like there's more optimism going forward of having more shots at the playoff from a Tulane, just given the conference that you're in compared to James Madison being in the Sun Belt, having to, again, have crazy circumstances help you out just to get in.
I agree. I think you're definitely right about that. I think JMU probably didn't get much benefit from not being ranked until very recently. I mean, they just entered the CFP rankings like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yep.
Tulane had been in it for a few weeks. And even at the time when they got ranked, I think John Summerall was like, we didn't, like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines of, like, we didn't deserve to be ranked. So I think, if JMU had been ranked earlier, maybe we're talking about them being, the highest overall G5 to be ranked and go to the playoff, but that's not what happened. And yeah, you're right. Like, they did need a lot of help, but this is still a very good team. The one that, ran its course through the Sun Belt and had a very good season. So I think JMU is still in a good position heading into the playoff here.
Which fan base you think is going to be better represented at their away game? Now, James Madison's got to go farther, but I feel like this is
I think this is an easy
such
one.
a huge deal.
Yeah, it's a very big deal. I'm going to go with Tulane just because New Orleans isn't that far from Oxford. I'm not sure how many hours it is, but it's like a state over. So I think there will be a lot of Tulane fans there if there are a lot. It seems like they have a lot of fans at Tulane for sure, being right in New Orleans. So, yeah, I would say Tulane will definitely have. I mean, we're talking about JMU all the way out in Virginia having to go out to Eugene, Oregon. I mean, that's a cross-country flight.
If I was a JMU alum, though, I would fund up the money.
Oh, I'm going.
And
Like,
look, I know my
would go.
team's probably going to lose by 3 or 4 touchdowns, but, like, what an experience.
Like, you never know when that's going to happen again.
It may never happen again. That's the thing. And we'll see how Billy Napier does as he takes over. Coming up in hour number 2, we'll relook at the preseason AP Top 25. How did they do? Who lived up to expectations and who failed miserably? That's coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyrod and Jack Beltry with you here on The Game. It's all right here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. In case you forgot, Christmas is like 2 weeks away. I know. You might be panicking right now, but don't worry. If you need a last-minute gift or just a little stocking stuffer, Twin Peaks has got you covered. They've launched their holiday bonus card, and if you buy a gift card for someone on your list, they'll hook you up with a bonus card just for you because giving feels great, but getting rewarded for it feels even better. You can share the gift of crave-worthy food, ice-cold 29-degree draft beers, and good times at Twin Peaks, and treat yourself while you're at it. Those bonus cards are redeemable January 1st through the 31st, 2026 at participating locations. And as we go through the month of December with so much great sports action going on, whether it be the playoffs, college basketball, NBA, NHL, whatever it may be, Twin Peaks is your ultimate destination to park yourself and take in all that great sports action. Again, all this with our friends over at Twin Peaks. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. Again, if you're just joining us, a little over an hour ago, we did receive the notice that tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., the Board of Trustees will have their meeting for the approval of athletic personnel contracts, which is a fancy way of saying they're going to give the thumbs up on the hirings of not only Kendall Briles, but also likely and a running backs coach as well as offensive line coach for South Carolina as well. And reading into Chris Clark's updated reporting, and he'll obviously be in here with me coming up in hour number 3, it does seem like Stan Drayton, who has been the running backs coach at Penn State this past year, a lot of experience around college football in the NFL, as well as Randy Clements, who is the offensive line coach currently for TCU, are expected to be the 2 other hires that will also be getting approved tomorrow morning.
I like it. I think it made sense. I think maybe the BOT meeting would have been sooner if it were just for the OC hire. But the fact that, I think they're trying to knock out, one bird with, what is it? One bird with 3.
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Kill
Yes.
3 birds with 1 stone.
3 birds, yeah, in this instance, 3 birds. with 1 stone.
3 birds with 1 stone. I think that's what South Carolina was just trying to do here with announcing this all at once. So, yeah, we'll see all 3 hires made tomorrow, which will be, will be good to see that this staff has been rounded out, unless there's any other changes, which I don't foresee right now. I think we'll have a complete staff tomorrow, which will be good to see.
Yeah. Again, at this point, you would have made any additional firings if you were going to make those. Doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. There is that slight bit of concern about Clayton White showing up on the Tennessee defensive coordinator hot board. You would hate to lose him and have to look for a defensive coordinator this late in the going. I wouldn't put that as a high possibility right now. I think Clayton seems to be pretty content and happy here. If he were to leave, I think it would be for a head coaching position, not necessarily just becoming a DC within the same conference.
Yeah, you really hope you don't lose Clayton. He's been a veteran here at South Carolina he's been here since the beginning. So he's definitely done a great job. And obviously the defense wasn't perfect this year, a little bit of a drop off from last year, but I think that was to be expected to some degree. Defense definitely kept you in a lot of games, but yeah, I mean, it would really stink to lose Clayton, because then it's like, oh man, now you got to go out here and replace not just him, but maybe potentially other guys on the staff too that would follow him. But we'll see.
And again, we'll get all the details of those contracts and salaries and all that kind of stuff tomorrow after the Board of Trustees meeting has concluded. As we kind of wrap up this regular season of college football, look ahead to bowls, which again, bowls get started this weekend. I know you got Army Navy coming up on Saturday, but you do also have bowl games getting started on Saturday night as well. And I think it's interesting to now look back, now that we know what everybody's postseason destinations are, and see just how wrong the AP Top 25 was when it came out before the season began. Can you recall off the top of your head the top 5 in the preseason AP poll?
Well, I'm looking at it
Okay,
right
you're
now.
looking at it now.
Yeah, it's funny to see Penn State and Clemson playing each other, and what the 2 of the top 4 teams playing each other in the freaking Pinstripe Bowl. It's insane to think about.
Yeah, that is kind of a funny thing, that if you would have gone back and told anybody back in this thing came out in like the middle of August or whenever it was, like, hey, I can look into the future and tell you one thing with no other context given. So, okay, well, please tell me what you know. And said, all right, well, Clemson and Penn State are going to be playing each other in late December. So, okay, well, that probably means they're going to be playing in the college football playoff quarterfinal game on December 31st. Like, that makes a lot of sense considering what those teams are ranked for the season. Actually, no. You'll be playing December 27th in the New Era Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium. Didn't see that one coming.
No, I did not. So the top 5 was Texas at number 1, Penn State at 2, Ohio State at 3, Clemson at 4, and Georgia at 5. For reference, the now number 1 overall team, Indiana, who I thought might have been out of the rankings at the beginning of the preseason, was ranked 20th.
Yes. And, I don't think anybody was surprised by that, because I think we looked at Indiana last year. Again, they benefited from a lighter schedule in the Big Ten. When they played Ohio State, they lost by a couple scores. They got road graded by Notre Dame when they went to South Bend for the first ever campus playoff game on that Friday night. So we didn't have a lot of reason to think that they were going to take this massive step forward in year number 2. I mean, them being ranked made sense for making the playoff a year ago, but nobody outside of, and maybe even most people in Bloomington, Indiana, couldn't have told you, yeah, that team's going to run the table, they're going to win the Big Ten, and they're going to be the number 1 seed in the 12-team playoff this year. Nobody
could have forecasted that would have happened. I mean, it's just crazy to think about how far Indiana's come here in this case, and it's crazy to see Penn State, Clemson obviously dropped off the face of the earth, but Texas did not have the year that I think a lot of people anticipated for them.
I will say this, of all the Power 4 teams that made the college football playoff, all 10 of them were ranked in the preseason top 25. The only 2 teams not to be featured were Tulane and JMU. And, of course, those are the 2 G5 representatives. The other 10 were ranked inside the top 25 to start the season.
Now, we have to mention here, this is we are covering South Carolina here at 107.5. South Carolina was ranked 13th in the initial preseason AP top 25, which, let's be fair, rightfully deserved. After the season they had last year, made sense for them to be ranked right behind Illinois at number 13.
And think about it. We talked about this before the AP poll came out, that we even thought 13 was better than what we expected. We kind of thought like 15th or so. And when it came out 13, it's like, wow, it's even better.
No,
like they
totally.
were exceeded the expectations we placed for them in the preseason AP poll.
I mean, this team jumped up all the way to number 10 by week 2. I mean, it's crazy where South Carolina was at the beginning of the season, and then where they were at the end. It's like what the heck happened? But we've discussed that at nauseum of why the season didn't go according to plan for South Carolina. But it's just kind of crazy to think about now of like where they were ranked at the beginning and how they could not be further from being ranked at this current moment.
Do you know how many teams in the AP top 25 did not qualify for a bowl game at all?
Let me fly through this real quick. Iowa State. Let's see. Kansas State. Like, I guess, like 3 maybe.
So you're not wrong about Kansas State and Iowa State. They were offered bowls, and they declined. So they had a possibility
and Notre Dame
of
too.
playing with one. Notre Dame the same way at number 6. But the 2 teams that outright failed to qualify and weren't even entertained as bowl options,
Florida.
South Carolina and Florida, ranked
South Carolina.
13th and 15th. They were not even given the option to decline bowls.
So what? We've got 5 teams in the top 25 that are not going to bowl games?
Yes. Now, again, Notre Dame would have been in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Kansas State and Iowa State would have been in a low-end Big 12 bowl. But at least they had the opportunity. They were told, and again, both of those programs dealing with coaching changes, which was their reason why, which I don't agree with. You have interim coaches. Let them coach the thing. But they still had the option, declined it. But, yes, only South Carolina and Florida were the 2 teams in the preseason top 25 to not even get the option to play in a bowl game.
And both, coincidentally, we're towards the bottom of the SEC. I mean, it's crazy to think about, right? I mean, the expectations we had. I think we need to look back at every single person's, like, in the media here. Like, look at how highly everyone probably thought of South Carolina coming into the year. Like, what did you think South Carolina was going to do heading into this season record-wise?
I thought 8-4. I thought they'd be around there. Again, one less game won than a season ago. 7-5 wouldn't have been crazy considering the talent you lost defensively and the onslaught of tough opponents you were going to have to face in the middle of the season. But 4-8 was not in my realm of possibility. I thought at worst 7-5.
Yeah, I mean, I thought maybe 9-3 at best. I could have seen a way they got to 10-2, but man, I mean, I don't think anyone's really at fault for predicting South Carolina to go that high. It's just sometimes the portal moves you make don't work out to the same extent, and that's what we saw last year or this year, that they lost so many good key players from last season, and it was going to be tough to replace those guys.
So as we mentioned a moment ago, Penn State and Clemson, the Disappointment Bowl, I guess is what we're calling this, considering they were both ranked in the top 4 and are now playing in the Pinstripe Bowl instead. Do you think Clemson fans are going to want to travel to that? Like, it's cool to be in Yankee Stadium, but it's going to be like 20 degrees.
Well,
like, it's not the same as going to like Orlando or Miami for a bowl game.
We can't forget there probably are a ton of Northerners and Yankees that go to Clemson. So we see the same thing happen here with South Carolina, where you got all the Northerners here populating South Carolina. I think it's probably the same thing out at Clemson. So I would say yes. I think we will see a good chunk of Clemson fans at Yankee Stadium for that game. It's a cool venue to go to for a college football game. Going to New York City right around Christmas. I mean, I think that is certainly very cool, but you'll definitely get a lot of the locals in New York that go to Clemson or have ties to Clemson. They'll probably be there, I would guess.
You just brought up a point. I feel the need to ask this because we know New York is not a bustling college football type of city.
Could not be.
Now where is the Bronx in reference to like downtown, like New York, New York?
Yankee Stadium's at 161st Street. So we're talking probably like I took the subway earlier this year from probably Manhattan to the Bronx. It was probably like a 30-minute subway train ride. It's let's just say it's not exactly like close to like Times Square, for instance. Like it would take a little bit of a trip to get over there.
Okay, but just let's encapsulate the entire city of New York. How many of those people in that city that live there and work there every single day are aware there'll be a college football game being played at Yankee Stadium on December 27th?
Probably not many. I'm sure Yankee Stadium is advertising this thing. The Yankees are probably advertising this thing, that there's a Pinstripe Bowl coming up. I mean, the Pinstripe Bowl has been around for over a decade now.
Sure.
So I'm sure it's getting promotion, but yeah, I don't think the average New Yorker. No, I think they're more concerned about the Knicks and the Rangers and both the crap football teams there. I mean,
could the average New Yorker name a single Clemson player? Do you think?
No.
Like I just polled 10 people on the street. Would any of them be able to tell me Kay Klubnik's name or Wade Woodaz or Peter Woods or whatever?
I'm going to need to text some of my Clemson reporter friends and be like, hey, if you guys want a cool story, go ahead and ask all these random people on the street if they know any Clemson players. Like, that would be – so I bet you they don't even know Dabo Sweeney. I mean, no offense to the New Yorkers, but let's be quite honest. Like, college football is not what it is here compared to it's not the same in New York compared to here.
Yeah. By the way, if you want to go, tickets as low as $96.
My brother's thought about going. He goes to Clemson, so
okay, well there you go.
Shoot, I would love to see South Carolina playing like the Pinstripe Bowl, but that'll never happen.
Yeah,
so.
there's no SEC tie-ins to that or the Wasabi Fenway Bowl.
The Fenway Bowl would have been cool.
Which that's UConn and Army.
Yeah,
that'll be later on that day actually. So you get because there's multiple ones. You have the Miami Beach Bowl. That's played where the Marlins play, Lone Depot Park. That's what it's called now.
Chase Field is
Chase
where
Field for the Cactus Bowl, or the Rate Bowl, I think is what it's called now.
Rate Bowl. Petco Park is now hosting the Holiday Bowl.
Oh, that's right.
Because it used to be a Qualcomm, but
that's
it's no longer.
It's Qualcomm.
No, it's demolished.
Oh, they tore it down.
Yeah, I think after the Chargers left San Diego.
Well, they kept playing the bowl game because I think SDSU played for a few years there.
But SDSU now has their new stadium.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. That's one of my favorite quirks of bowl season is playing in baseball stadiums.
Yeah.
Because again, it's almost kind of a throwback to how they used to do it with multi-purpose venues like Atlanta Fulton County Stadium or RFK and stuff. So yeah, I do think it's neat and it's kind of funny looking the way they have to lay out the field and sometimes like at the Rate Bowl they have to have both teams standing on the same sideline because of the way that the field works out there at Chase Field. I don't know. It's funny.
They've used Wrigley Field for Northwestern home games. So
they have.
This is a perfect lead-in to what our next segment is.
Yes, it is. What are our bowl games, the non-college football playoff ones we're looking forward to the most? We'll discuss that coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Wednesday on the game.
No. I mean, I can't speak to their process, but we love playing football here. And to realize that we get a chance to close out a special season with a special group of players on a great bowl stage in a great city against a really, really tough opponent. I mean, as a football fan, as a football coach, as a football person, it's hard not to get excited about that. So there was no way that we were going to end this story early, and I'm so excited to be taking this team down to Tampa, and I got a chance to spend, I think, like 23 days or so with them. We're going to soak up every one of those days, so looking forward to that.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri with you here on your Wednesday on the Game. That was the voice of Clark Lea, head coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores, as they get set to head down to Tampa on December 31st for the ReliaQuest Bowl, as they'll take on at number 23 Iowa. Of course, Vanderbilt coming up just short of making the college football playoff, but I think everybody kind of roots for Vanderbilt anyway and Clark Lea because they're such a plucky underdog story and what the turnaround they've been able to have. I thought Clark Lea's message about missing the playoff was phenomenal compared to Notre Dame and how they handled all that. Though I can understand their frustration, where he's like, "Yeah, we shouldn't have lost. We had opportunities to beat Alabama and Texas and didn't do it, and that's why we're outside the playoff." And then the question of, "Hey, did you guys think about skipping your bowl game?" Absolutely not. This is going to be the best bowl game in Vanderbilt history. Yeah, they would have liked to have been playing for something more, but still, big deal. A lot of fans are going to travel down there, and I personally, because we'll get into our specific bowl games we're looking forward to the most, I'm looking forward to Vanderbilt and Iowa in the ReliaQuest Bowl because I think that's a game that both teams are going to legitimately care about.
I agree. I think that's a great way to start this off of the 3 bowl games each that we're kind of looking forward to seeing. And now I kind of looked at this from 2 standpoints of, one, the intriguing matchups, but also just the location and the bowl game itself. Like the bowl season's very wacky, which is
what makes it so great.
So there's my criteria for it, which leads me into my first one. These are in no particular order.
All right.
The first one I would say on Wednesday, December 24th, the Sheraton Hawaii Bowl. I love seeing the Hawaii Bowl always take place on Christmas Eve because it's the one sporting event that you'll have on Christmas Eve, which is California versus Hawaii. Granted, it's not at Aloha Stadium like it used to be. It's at the TC Ching Athletics Complex in Honolulu, which is where Hawaii plays its home game. So it's
just like a community college.
Yes, so it's a home game for Hawaii at this point. But I will say I'm going to be locked in at 8 p.m. ESPN. I love watching the Hawaii Bowl.
I have a special place in my heart for the Hawaii Bowl, and I'll tell you why. Because when I was a kid growing up, the way we did Christmas, or the way that I did Christmas is, Santa Claus would come in the night, right? So you got all the gifts and everything laid out in the living room around the Christmas tree, and I wouldn't sleep on Christmas Eve. I wouldn't go to sleep. I'd lay there with my eyes open, just looking at the clock, and around usually about 2 a.m., I'd say, okay, I believe Santa has come and gone, and I know there's gifts out there. I'm going to get up and go play with them. So I literally from the age of like 5 to I don't even know how old, into my teenage years, I guess, I would get up at like 2 a.m., go into the living room, and just play with my Christmas toys all morning long before eventually falling asleep on the couch or whatever till my parents woke me up when everybody else got up to open more presents and all that kind of stuff. And I would always put the TV on something, cartoons, Christmas movie, whatever. And I came to find out as the years went by, they would always replay the Hawaii Bowl in the early morning hours of Christmas Day because the game would take place the night before. So I always found myself watching because we always did like a Christmas party at our house on Christmas Eve, so I didn't really get to watch the game live. I would always find myself watching a replay of the Hawaii Bowl at like 4 a.m. on Christmas morning while I'm playing with my toys and stuff like that. That is my
4 a.m. is crazy.
Yeah, that is my special connection to the Hawaii Bowl.
Nice.
And it holds a special place in my heart.
All right, so what's the next game you got on your list there?
Okay, so my number 1 was the ReliaQuest Bowl. Number 2, I got the Alamo Bowl with Southern Cal and TCU. Of course, TCU is going to be without. Well, I guess we don't know yet. I'm assuming Kendall Browse is going to be calling that game now that he's coming here to South Carolina.
Probably gonna call that. I don't know.
I don't know. I will get more.
They do well. Sonny Dykes, I think, had his press conference yesterday. TCU head coach. They do have a contingency plan in place if when Briles does leave, and there is a chance that Sonny could call plays,
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
My excitement is I think this is going to be points galore.
Oh,
you get
100%.
two
The
teams
Alamo
with
Bowl,
good offenses.
The Alamo Bowl, I think historically, right, the Alamo Bowl typically is a very high-scoring type of game. Am I right on that?
You are.
It feels like that's the case.
This is the game where Oregon was down like 31-0 to Kansas State and came back and won in like 2012, I think it was. Let's see. Let's look at some of the past scores of Hawaii Bowls. 36-14, 38-24, 27-20, 47-32, 55-23, 38-10, 39-37, 38-8, 47-41. That was TCU and Oregon. 40-35. Yeah, this is a game, because it usually always features a Big 12 team, that, yes, a lot of points get scored, and I think this one's right in line with that.
No, I agree. I think it really could be a good one there. For my next one, I got to go with the People's National Championship.
Yes.
The Pop-Tarts Bowl. I think this could be one that we both would pick. So Georgia Tech, BYU, Camping World Stadium, Orlando, Florida.
Could have been Notre Dame.
Could have been Notre Dame, but you know what? It's okay. Who needs them anyway, right? So Georgia Tech, BYU. I think this is a very intriguing game. Haynes King going up against BYU and this offense. Like, this is going to be a fun game to watch.
That was actually my number 3 because, and I'd seen enough BYU this year to know this, but really sitting down and watching the Big 12 championship, I was like, Hank Bachmeier's kind of a dog, man. Like, I don't know, he was making mistakes with turnovers and stuff like that, but this guy will put his head down and take contact. Him and Haynes King, both kind of being that similar type of gritty, scrappy quarterback, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think that's a game that both teams care about as well. Like, Tech is obviously disappointed they didn't make the playoff. Same thing for BYU. But I feel like this is going to be a game where one of the teams, like, checked out, right? I think you're going to get a good, hard-nosed game between two gritty teams.
Absolutely. So for my third one, I guess I'm going to – we don't know the official matchup yet, but you got to go with the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is always a good one. Indiana is going to be there taking on either Alabama or Oklahoma, so we'll see which one ends up there. But the Rose Bowl is a classic for sure. If I'm going with a more solidified matchup, though, I would go with the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl.
Okay.
My bias from last year is there. I loved going there for that. That was an awesome experience going there for the Citrus Bowl. It's the highest. I would say it's probably the best non-playoff bowl game you could go to. In my opinion, it's a good time out there. Always a really good matchup. And this year, you get a good one with Michigan going up against Texas, 2 top 15 teams. I think that could be really fun to watch.
I think we've kind of accepted that the Citrus Bowl is the best non-playoff bowl out there because it used to be, in the 14 playoff era, you had the rotation, so 2 of the bowls would be semifinals, and the other one were New Year's Six bowls. So they were seen as the elite of the elite. Now they're all encompassed in the playoffs. I think Citrus is kind of universally accepted as like, okay, that's the best non-playoff bowl you can be in.
And it's a good bowl game. It really is. It's a good one to go to. That I know South Carolina had a lot of excitement going to play there last year, and plus, it had a lot of controversy with South Carolina going up against Illinois with Bielema and whatnot. So hopefully Sark and Sharon Moore can kind of keep their cool this year, but we'll see.
By the way, if you want to see Illinois and who Brett Bielema might get in a fight with this year.
Josh Heupel.
Yeah, Music City Bowl, Nashville, December 30th.
Oh, man. Be there or be square. That's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, Josh Heupel's a little bit bigger than Beamer.
Yeah, I think he could take Bielema. They kind of match up. Bielema has the edge, I think, a little bit since he's a huge guy. But
yeah, Bielema's a big boy.
I think Heupel could, take on him a little bit.
Which there'll be a lot of Tennessee fans for that one because it's right there in their backyard, Nissan Stadium in Nashville. I'm assuming, are they still doing renovations? When I was in Nashville in the summer, they were doing renovations to Nissan Stadium.
Yeah, I was there in March for the SEC tournament. They were still doing for Nissan? Or are you talking about the new stadium?
Nissan.
Oh, for Nissan?
Well, aren't they just upgrading Nissan Stadium?
No, they're building the new stadium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the new stadium's been going on, built since like last year. So
why did I think they were just upgrading Nissan?
No, Titans are getting a new stadium.
Okay, well, good for them.
Yeah,
and it's got a roof on it, right?
I think so. Yeah, it should.
It's kind of, if you want events like the Final Four, you better have a roof on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's December 30th. Let's take a look at around the NFL coming up next, including Grandpa playing in the league. Oh, we'll tell you about that next as well. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Wednesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. It is time for Who Sprung a Leak. Brought to you by our friends over at American Leak Detection. And oh boy, it's a leak that keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The Colts have already been sliding a little bit. They've lost 4 out of their last 5 games. And unfortunately on Sunday it got worse. Danny Dimes went down with a season-ending Achilles injury. What had been the best story in the NFL, not only the resurgence of the Colts, but Danny Dimes, who we thought was left for dead and damaged goods, seemingly was turning his career around, and it's now been derailed by the season-ending injury. And the Colts, as a whole, are in panic mode, trying to salvage something out of what we thought was a magical season.
And to make matters worse, they're dealing with a lot of injuries at the quarterback position. Anthony Richardson, man, does anyone know where he is at this point?
He's still on IR right now.
Still on IR. I mean,
he hurt his orbital bone in warm-ups.
Yes.
Before a game in October. Like he got hit in the face of the ball or something like that.
I mean, the guy's just MIA at this point. They've got Riley Leonard, the quarterback from Notre Dame, but he's also banged up right now.
Because he came in and played on Sunday.
They have Brett Ripien, another guy. But but here's the thing. You're really going to go with Brett Ripien as your quarterback? So what the Colts did, they went out and just gave a call to Philip Rivers, who, mind you, has been retired since 2020. He's currently a semifinalist on the Pro Football Hall of Fame ballot. Called him up to see if he would come out of retirement to maybe join them and see what he could still do. They signed him to the practice squad. And keep in mind, he is 44 years old and has been out of football since 2020.
He's also been coaching high school football at St. Michael Catholic in Alabama, which, by the way, they just lost in the semifinal round of the state playoffs to Jackson, 44-23. But yeah, he's been signed to the practice squad. Don't know if he's going to play or not. Again, Brett Ripien, I guess, would be the assumed start. And I know on Sunday, because Ripien was on the practice squad, and once Riley Leonard went into the game, I think they said Tyler Warren became their emergency quarterback if it came down to that. And again, Leonard now has the knee injury. But yes, 44-year-old Philip Rivers, who's a grandfather, by the way. He has
like
10 children.
10 kids.
10 children, 7 daughters, 3 sons, 1 grandchild. Are we aware of any other grandfathers that have ever played in the NFL? I'm sure it's happened before, but it's not a common thing.
You'd have to probably look at a kicker, maybe being like a grandfather. I'm trying to think of maybe Morton Anderson or Vinatieri, maybe. I don't know, honestly, off the top of my head. But yeah, Philip Rivers has got to be in a league of his own right now. And here's the interesting thing. I was kind of wondering this myself with because once you play in a game and you sign, once you sign a full contract with a team, you're no longer the clock resets for Philip Rivers to be on the Hall of Fame ballot. Now, that said, he's signed to the practice squad. So if he does not play in a game, he is still going to be on the ballot and still could be elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame next year. But if he gets moved up from the practice squad to being on the 53-man roster, then I believe that goes away and the clock resets. So he'd have to wait another 5 years to become eligible for the Hall of Fame again.
I looked it up. I can't find anything in reference to Morton Anderson's grandchildren. He was very old when he last played for the Falcons at the very end of the 2000s there, but I don't know if he had any grandchildren at that point in time. But yeah, unique circumstance there. Regardless, I don't have high hopes for the Colts to finish out the year the same way they started. It does kind of seem like they might be cooked in terms of this year turning out to be something special.
Think about it. They were, I think, both of our number ones in the top 5, bottom 5
for a while.
Just a few weeks ago, for a while. They have fallen off a cliff. And it doesn't help that Danny Dimes is done for the year. He was definitely a big reason for why they were so successful to begin this year. But, man, I mean, they're not even close to being in the top 5 anymore. And it's a shame because the Colts were having a good year, and I think it's kind of been derailed now. And I think this is probably the Jaguars' division to lose at this point, I would say. The Texans are still playing pretty good football right behind them, but I think we're probably going to see those two teams in the AFC South duking it out for superiority, and then you got the Colts on the outside.
So as we do that, we'll head into our NFL top 5, bottom 5, and they didn't play this week. I still have the Patriots at number 1, for me. Again, 10-game winning streak kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, I agree. Pats at number 1 for me. I'm still not a big believer in them, but maybe that'll if they beat the Bills again this weekend, then I think I can be sold on the Pats. But I'm not as of right now. I'm not sold on the number 1 or number 2 team on my list.
Okay, my number 2 is the Broncos, also 10 wins in a row. Another one by 1 score, which kind of seems to be their thing this year. I believe they're only up a game and a half on the Chargers. They still got to play them one more time, so that's going to be a fun battle to see come down to the end. But it does seem to be a 2-horse race in the AFC West right now, as the Chiefs kind of a little too far out to make a run here late.
Don't say that. Don't
never know.
Don't
the
say
Chiefs that I watched on Sunday night didn't look like a team that's going to make a run in the last month of the season.
I freaking hope not. Number 2 for me, I got the Broncos as well. Like you said, Tyler, they're on a big winning streak, but I mean, look at the teams they're beating. The Bengals, the Eagles, Jets, Giants, Cowboys, Texans, Raiders, Chiefs, Commanders, Raiders. I mean, I feel very mumuch similar about them and the Patriots, and like, yes, they're doing really good things right now, both 11-2. But like, look at the teams that these guys are beating. And they're winning very close games. So convince me with some big wins here. If the Broncos beat the Packers this week, and then the Pats beat the Bills, I'll change my mind on both of them. But for now, they're number 1 and 2, but it could be a little bit fluky. We'll find out here.
Rams, my number 3. They lost the prior week to Carolina, bounced back by throttling NFC West divisional opponent Arizona, which, by the way, it's got to be miserable existence to be an Arizona fan as of right now. But again, I mean, Matt Stafford looks like the MVP. What more can you say?
No, definitely, I agree. I'm still kind of holding out on the Rams a little bit just because they beat the Cardinals like they're supposed to. They go out here this week and beat the Lions. All right, they're back in the top 5 for sure. Right now I'm going in the NFC West, though, with the Seahawks at number 3. What a win over the Falcons, man. I know that was painful for you, but, man.
I'm numb. It's okay.
I mean, Nicky Manwari having a record-setting day. I mean, just this Seahawks team, fun to watch. So give me the Seahawks at number 3.
Seahawks are my number 4. Again, throttled the Falcons the other day. Do you realize they play the Rams next Thursday on Thursday Night Football?
That is true. Yes.
That is going to be fun.
A huge game. Huge game in Seattle.
Huge game. Who's your number 4?
My number 4, Green Bay Packers. Nice win over the Bears. I mean, the Bears fell all the way from the number 1 seed in the NFC down to the 7th. So, I mean, the Bears were my number 3 last week, but that has clearly changed with the loss. I mean, Packers got the game-winning interception at the end by Keyshawn Nixon. Pretty good game at Lambeau. So, give me the Packers at number 4.
Packers are my number 5. Again, big one there. Keyshawn Nixon with the interception at the very end. Into the Bears' 5-game winning streak. That's still a neck-and-neck division. Well, it's going to come down to the wire there. But, you know, I think we said this earlier. The Packers just kind of feel like they've flown under the radar a lot of the season. But now, as we get later into the year, I think more people are starting to pay attention a little bit more.
Yeah. Give me the Buffalo Bills at number 5. I like the way they're playing right now. Good game. No, not good game. It was. I mean, that was one that I was kind of sweating about against the Bengals a little bit. Down 28-18. Defense looked atrocious, I would say, against the Bengals, but still, Josh Allen, this defense able to get enough going in the end to win. So, Bills are 9-4 right now, still alive in the AFC East, barely, but I got them at number 5, playing much better as of late.
By the way, I looked this up. This is per Cleveland.com. Brett Favre is the first ever grandfather to play in the NFL. Philip Rivers will only become the second to ever play as a grandfather in the National Football League.
Is Aaron Rodgers capable of being a grandfather at some point? Or?
Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any kids.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he doesn't have any kids.
He only just got married in the offseason. We still don't even know what his wife looks like, right? Like,
yeah,
nobody's seen her. It's just she goes to a different school thing.
Oh God, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
Unless he has a kid that we're not aware of.
Yeah, you never know. You never know with his secret life.
I don't know. Yeah, it's the less we know about Aaron Rodgers, the better sometimes. We'll come back, wrap up the hour, give our NFL bottom 5, and also talk about how I watched Sunday Night Football with the alternative broadcast. That's coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Wednesday here on The Game.
Are you asking me?
Oh no, we have an injury on the field already.
Timeout.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about
It's
our
always really scary in a football game.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Sauerhead and Jack Veltri along with you here on your Wednesday on the Game. Jack, do you have any idea what that clip I just played you was from?
I couldn't really make it out, but since you mentioned the thing from Monday Night Football, then yes, I think I know what you're referring to.
That is from the Sunday Night Football alternative broadcast known as Reality Hot Seat. Now, I had no clue about this until quite literally about 2 minutes before kickoff on Sunday between the Texans and the Chiefs. They said, hey, because Bravo is a subsidiary of NBC, so they had this alternative broadcast on Peacock, and as soon as I saw that, I said, oh, I have to see what this is about. Now, I'm not usually the one. I don't really watch the Manning cast a lot. I'll pop in from time to time just to hear Peyton break something down. I did briefly watch the Monsters alt broadcast on Monday just to see what that would look like. But I legitimately sat and watched an entire quarter of Sunday Night Football with this reality broadcast because I knew it was going to be something. It was either going to be the best or worst thing I've ever seen. It kind of went towards the worst because, and I don't watch reality television. This is all people from like the Real Housewives show. There was one dude from Survivor that did know about football, but like it was really just like a reality talk show with a football game playing on the TV in the background is what this was.
I watched a little bit of the Monsters Inc. broadcast on Monday. First off, I didn't even know about that Sunday Night Football.
I didn't either until right before the game started.
No, because I was just watching on NBC. But yeah, that's interesting. Wow, I did not realize that. But it was cool seeing the Monday Night Football broadcast. But John Goodman, who plays Sully in Monsters Inc., does not sound he does not sound too good anymore, I would say.
Here's my thing though. Like I get with the Monsters thing, you're trying to open up football to like kids, get them introduced to the game and all that kind of stuff. And the NFL does a good job with that. I'm watching this reality hot seat thing and I'm like, who is this for? Because if I'm watching this as just a reality TV fan, this isn't necessarily drawing me into the NFL anymore. You know what I mean? And if I'm a football fan watching this, which I am, it's not drawing me towards reality TV. Like I'm not sure what their end goal with this was designed to be. You know what I mean?
I don't know. To entertain kids, I don't know, to be honest.
I don't know. It was exactly what I expected. Very weird, very awkward, and not a lot of football being talked about.
No.
Besides, like, oh, here's what Travis Kelce wore into the game, and who is the Patrick Mahomes of the Real Housewives? Which again, I have no clue who any of them are. So it was quite an experience. I'll say that.
Yeah. So,
anyways, we'll spin through our NFL bottom five real quick, and as we get later in the season, these don't change a whole lot. The Falcons are my number 28 because they've clinched their 8th straight season without a single playoff appearance. Remember the Super Bowl that they blew to the Patriots? The following year, they made the playoffs, beat the Rams, and lost to the Eagles. They have not made it since. 8 straight years.
Wow. Number 28 for me, Cleveland Browns. Kevin Stefanski needs to be fired. I mean, the whole Shador thing. Shador played great on Sunday against the Titans, but not having him in for the most critical play of the game on the 2-point conversion try was just complete and utter disaster. So I got the Browns at 28.
Browns are my 29 for no other reason than they allowed Tennessee to win a game, which when you allow the team that's dead last in our top 5, bottom 5 to win, that's going to usually put you in the bottom 5. So Tennessee getting their second win over the Browns puts the Browns at number 29 for me.
29 for me. Cardinals, they got the doors blown off them by the Rams. It's been that type of season. Long gone, season over. Eliminated from the playoffs, just not playing good football at all.
Number 30 for me, the Raiders. They came close. 7-point loss to the Broncos. They're now on a 7-game losing skid. And I believe I saw that Geno Smith's also hurt now. So it keeps getting worse.
Yeah, number 30 for me is also the Raiders. It's just a disaster there. So,
and again, number 31 and 32 stay the same. Giants for firing Brian Dable, and the Titans for firing Callahan, their head coach. I forgot his name.
Although the Titans did win, but it's
they did win.
But it's like the Giants were on a bye week, so it's like you can't really move them.
Honestly, we're in early December. I'm surprised more firings haven't happened yet.
Again, I think the Browns are going to fire Stefanski at some point. I think they just got him, man. I mean, it's It's crazy what's going on there. Like, how do you not have your quarterback out in the field who had 4 touchdowns on the day for the biggest play of the game? How do you not have him out there? That is just ludicrous to me.
Yeah, still trying to figure that one out. But that's our NFL top 5, bottom 5 for the week. And, we're into the final 4 games.
Yep, 4 games to go.
4 games of the season. A lot of good divisional races. Again, the AFC West, NFC North, the NFC South, quite frankly. And you know what? Quick shout out, because they did escape my bottom 5. How about the Saints beating the Buccaneers?
How about it, man?
How about that?
How about it? And how about the Carolina Panthers being in first place in the NFC South? I mean,
just like we all predicted.
I think coming into the year, I think I said the Panthers were a dark horse. Like, they're certainly a good team, man. Like, don't sleep on the Panthers. I kind of hope they win the NFC South here, but we'll see.
Yeah. By the way, sounds like Xavier Legette had a good time at Guthrie's yesterday with the chicken finger eating contest with Elijah and Preston.
I gotta say, I watched the video of them two having the chicken fingers. I was definitely disappointed.
Yeah, they only raced to 5.
It ended in a tie. I thought they were gonna go all out,
Yeah.
have like 10, 15 tenders, but no.
I was hoping it was going to be like a 10-minute limit to see how many you could eat, but they were
Wow.
trying to see who could eat 5 the fastest.
That was
But,
lame.
yeah,
so,
it
big thumbs down.
yeah. Well, we'll have to have our own eating.
We'll do it.
contest. How about that?
We'll do it better.
We'll do it
this
better.
time.
There you go. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. The latest updates on the hirings that are to be made in the next 24 hours for South Carolina football here on the game.
All right, as we close out the hour here, let me tell you guys about AAA Heating and Air. If you're a small business owner, a church, or other entity in need of a new HVAC system, then AAA has exciting news for you. AAA Heating and Air now offers financing to qualified organizations to aid them in installing a new light commercial HVAC system. It's as easy as calling AAA for a quote or finding them online at callAAAtoday.com. Tell them Bob and Sherry sent you. At AAA Heating and Air, they've got your back. They're offering up to 12-month payment plans on repairs with no credit check required. That's right. No need to worry about your credit score. As long as you're a homeowner with a valid bank account, you'll be good to go. Take control of your comfort today by calling AAA Heating and Air at 803-677-1500. Again, the number to call AAA, 803-677-1500. Give them a call today and breathe easy again.
11 o'clock on your Wednesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Nope, it's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. I've already screwed up the title one time today. Let's hope that's the only time. Tyler Ed, Chris Clark along with you. Getting closer, right?
Yes.
I thought about this in the break. Are you a fan of the Harry Potter movies or the books or whatever? Your kids, anybody fans of Harry Potter in your house?
Nope. Kids have never read them. Kids have never watched one, actually. I don't really know why. And I have seen one Harry Potter movie.
Okay.
I think it was the first one. It was when I was in high school.
But you're aware in that universe, when you turn 11, you wait for your acceptance letter to Hogwarts. And it comes in the mail, hey, congratulations, you've been accepted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. You're anxiously waiting in the wizarding world to turn 11 to get that notification that you've been accepted into Hogwarts. Similarly, we've been waiting all week long to get the notification from our guy, Colin Taylor, that there'll be a Board of Trustees meeting happening, which we finally got earlier on this morning for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., where approval of athletic personnel contracts is on the agenda.
I did not have a Harry Potter comparison on the bingo card to the South Carolina assistant coaching searches. Well done.
I feel like I can work anything in.
Yes.
You give me
Versatile.
anything random, and I feel like I can find a way to work it in to what we talk about.
So this thing is certainly in the absolute final stages.
Yes.
And I am at this point. I told you the other day, Tyler, I didn't mind, which I still don't mind. I love getting to do what I do. I am in the final stages of how, my readiness to move on from this thing as well.
Sure.
And start talking about, okay, what's next now that we know who the guys are. So just to recap, Board of Trustees advisory did come out earlier this morning. Board of Trustees meeting set tomorrow because they have to give 24 hours notice.
Yep.
That's the law. They can't get around that. And so that's why are they not doing it today? Tomorrow morning, since they've given notice now. My understanding is, Tyler, at least one of these contracts got finished late last night, maybe even early this morning, technically. And it was expected that they'd be able to get it done, but, just some final things got it done. So the expectation fully is that all three of the new assistant coaching contracts will get approved officially, rubber stamped tomorrow. And so that'll be Kendall Briles, offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, is what we expect. Randy Clements as offensive line coach, also at TCU, long history with Briles. And then Stan Drayton from Penn State, a guy that has been on staff with Beamer previously, back in 2004 at Mississippi State, has a lengthy, pretty impressive resume. So those are the expected hires. We have kind of more clarity and finality on that.
And if it were just the Briles hire, there's a strong possibility all that could have maybe been done in the last day or so, and we could have had the introductory press conference today or something like that. But the group of making this hire with all three of them together, again, you have Clements coming over as the anticipated offensive line coach from TCU as well, and then Drayton coming over from Penn State. That was probably what drugged this out a little bit longer, because again, the Briles thing, y'all first started really reporting on that at the end of last week. So, and we kind of felt pretty confident by Monday that this was definitely going to happen. It's the other two that were still even up in the air as far as like yesterday when you and I were talking about not really sure exactly what was going to happen. But now we feel confident saying this is the direction they're going to go with Clements and Drayton. And that's kind of why this process has maybe seemed like it's taken longer than some of the other prior coordinator or assistant hires have in the past.
Yeah, I think a few different things have come into play on the timeline here. First of all, I think there were some misunderstandings of what the timeline was. Now, if you disagreed, but the timeline shouldn't have even been this. Okay, we can talk about that, discuss that. But the timeline for the hires was always to try to get them finalized. Once this train really got down the tracks and Shane Beamer had identified, okay, Briles is the top target. He's attainable. You've got two other assistant hires. The target was really always Monday or Tuesday of this week to try to get those things finalized.
Yep.
And I just told you, the last contract, at least one of them, I'm pretty confident in saying that there was one that took a little longer for whatever reason. I think it was just maybe the timing of how it came on the radar. it got done late last night. So really they kind of stayed with that timeline to where they felt like late Tuesday night, like everything's in place, because then they were able to, if you look at what happened, you can't send out a board of trustees advisory early on Wednesday morning if you don't know the previous day, right, that things are done. Colin, those guys didn't go in hey, y'all think we should maybe have a board meeting? Like, there's work to do up until that point. So that's number one. Like, the timing has actually, maybe it's been on the tail end of that, but the timeline was kind of hit. The other things were, frankly, you're hiring a guy in Kendall Briles who already has a job.
Yes.
And so you can't force a guy to come, and you can't force a guy to make a decision. I think he had to decide. He came here and visited, decide, is this an opportunity we want to pursue? Everybody's comfortable. And then you really got to start working out the bones and structure of the deal. And then you got to figure out, in addition to the finances, the structure of the deals, all right, well, how are we going to structure the staff? Stan Drayton is coming over from Penn State. I mentioned that Beamer, knows him, has a lot of respect for him. They were on the same staff together about 20 years ago at Mississippi State. He's a guy that he's wanted to hire in the past, from my understanding. And so, you got to structure, okay, the new offensive coordinator wants to have input into the staff. What does that look like? We know that he's bringing an offensive line coach, Randy Clements, who's worked with them closely before at multiple schools. He's an assistant offensive line coach at TCU because they have A.J. Rickers, their full-time guy. But he's done a lot of good things. They work extremely closely together. And then, frankly, Briles and Beamer would have to make sure, okay, are we good here with hiring Stan Drayton? Here's why I want to hire him. You would also think that Briles is going to have input into, hey, I'd like to bring some off-field guys, analyst-type guys as well. So there's a lot of different things to figure out. You're not just juggling one contract and one spot. You got 3 different spots, 3 people, 3 contracts, and trying to kind of integrate and make sure that the staff is meshing correctly. So I think that's a few of the reasons why it just took a little bit longer than normal.
And you mentioned, again, Randy Clements, long history with Kendall Briles, going back to their days at Baylor. They were together at Houston and Florida State, kind of veered away from each other for a couple years. Clements was at Ole Miss, North Texas, North Carolina before meeting back up at TCU. So clearly this is a guy that he trusts, that obviously knows how to work an offensive line within the system that he needs. And that becomes a big question, too, that, again, we'll get into maybe a little bit more later on in the week. But, okay, how does a Randy Clements come in here and look at this offensive line room and say, okay, these guys fit what I need, or these guys don't fit what I need? We need to go hit up the portal to bring in a different type of offensive lineman. Because, again, this is going to be a tempo-based offense. And we played the cut yesterday where, Briles was talking about needing a center that can get up on the ball, assess things really quickly, and get that next snap off quick. And I skimmed through a little bit of the Arkansas-South Carolina game from 3 years ago, just watching their offense. And, again, it was just boom, 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 play after play after play, not letting that play clock get under 25 seconds in a lot of instances, and having that center jump up on the ball, be ready to go and have that next play going. And I'm not saying the guys on the roster now aren't capable of that, but you do have to have that assessment of, okay, here's what we have. Is this going to work? And, again, a year where you need this to work right out of the gate, or do we need to go out and really shop the portal for different types of offensive linemen?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you could say the same for running back with Stan Drayton.
But we already know they're going to need running backs in the portal.
Well, that's the thing, and we obviously have the lingering question of Lenore Sellers, which I think there's the strongest I would go is I think there's a really good opportunity that South Carolina can keep him here. But, is it done? No, absolutely not. So, I think when you look at those 2 positions, you're right, Tyler, they're 2 of the biggest needs. Shane Beamer, when he was asked about it on signing day for high school last week, a week ago today, he identified defensive line, offensive line, but he also, after saying that and talking about that for a while, he mentioned running back. And you've got 3 scholarship running backs right now. Even if you have no further attrition, which is possible, the portal isn't open.
Sure.
Guys could announce right now. They could wait until, January 2nd or any time in there. We'll see, because we are firmly in the offseason when guys are making those decisions. There's still weird to say in college football to some degree. There's negotiations going on about NIL and all those types of things. but you got 3 running backs in that room. You've also got an offensive line where that's a position where I think you can expect significant turnover. We've already seen one, Nick Sharp, publicly. Yep. Shane Beamer even mentioned that, hey, there's some other guys that we've talked to about, mutually agreeing, everybody's moving on. I would think, look back to the offensive line for some possibilities there. And certainly with the struggles that they had, not just this season, but this past season, you're looking at a combination. Like, you can call it a rebuild. That's probably fair. I think some of the guys that are on the roster, Ashed Surratt's a great example. First-year player, showed some promise, started some games. You've got a combination of there are guys on the roster that can factor in going forward, but you also know that they are going to need to hit the portal. There's not any spot on the offensive line that, all things considered, from a personnel standpoint or a coaching standpoint, I think they're all on the table, because you're right. Randy Clements is going to come in. Briles is going to come in. Drayton, being part of the run game as the running backs coach, they're going to look at this thing and assess the personnel, assess the needs. And frankly, sitting here right now, Tyler, without even knowing anything about what their thoughts on the roster are, really South Carolina needs guys at all of those positions on the O-line.
Yeah.
Looking at center, you're looking at guard, you're looking at tackle, whether it's depth pieces or starters, adding competition. But you made a good point about the center, though. Really, really key in Briles' offense to get everybody set up. One of their things when they play with tempo, whoever catches the pass or runs the basically whoever ends up with the football when the play's over, running it back to the ref.
The center judge specifically.
They're not
having to throw it back and forth between themselves.
You don't want to throw it, have the ref drop the ball, then it's fumbled all around. Like, hand it to him so that he can get it to the center, and then the center's setting everybody up so you can play with tempo. So, great point.
Yeah, that was such a fascinating thing, because we see teams play with tempo all the time, but there's minute details of that you don't even think about. It's like, but yeah, that makes sense. When you're handing it to the guy that's going to spot the ball, that expedites the process and saves you, 6-7 seconds from, instead of handing it to the guy that's on the sideline, to throw it to the guy that's going to drop it and then pick it back up and then put it down. Like, you want to keep this thing going. And I even threw in there, like, their defense is going to flop on you at some point. So you have to build those expectations in. But, yeah, you're going to need a lot of athleticism, particularly on the offensive line, to keep this pace going if you're going to do that throughout the entire game all season.
Yep, athleticism, smarts, and it, you think about conditioning, you hope that works in your favor.
Sure.
A lot of years, it did not work out this year, of course, in terms of the results. But one of the things that we talked about with Beamer's teams is they have been pretty good in a lot of fourth quarters. They've been good late in the season. That obviously didn't play out this year in either facet. Like, November was not South Carolina's month, as it has been a lot of times. The fourth quarter they were in a lot of fourth quarter games. So, conditioning is going to be very important. Can you flip that back in your favor with how you're going to play? This is going to be from a scheme and philosophy standpoint, it's not like it's completely foreign, because there's a lot of zone running concepts. There's, the program has played with tempo at times, not nearly as much as they're going to now.
Yep.
RPOs have been part of the offense, right? It'll go heavier into that. So it's not like they're coming in here, all right, guys, triple option, running the wing T.
Yeah.
It's not like that. But there are some key differences, and I think the amount of tempo and some of just the Kendall Briles uses the word tempo mechanics, the phrase. There are a lot of things mechanically in how you're operating the offense that are going to be a lot different from what they've done in the past. And the hope is, by changing that, you're flipping the script more into your favor offensively.
Well, the biggest X factor, of course, is will Norris Sellers stay or go to the NFL, and how much does Kendall Briles being the offensive coordinator play into that decision? We'll discuss that coming up next. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on your Wednesday on the Game.
using mixed plays. So whenever we first started running RPO World 2010, there wasn't a term for it, so we called it mixed plays. Our guys at TCU, they're going to call them mixed plays, but that's just RPOs. We're going to be doing that 80% of the time.
Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Chris along with you here on your Wednesday on the Game. That was the voice of Kendall Briles talking some offensive philosophy and how heavy they are in the RPO, or as he call it, mixed play game. And again, that Briles offense, going back to the days at Baylor, were kind of innovators of that, of what's become so prevalent across college football. And, you know, he's talking about that from a TCU standpoint where, for those that don't know, Josh Hoover has been the quarterback under Briles for the past 3 years. More of a pocket passer, not somebody that was really too much of a threat with his legs compared to somebody like Sellers. So if he's running 80% RPOs with that kind of quarterback, I can only imagine how many he'll run here if LaNorris Sellers does stick around. But that ball is in Sellers' court at this point in time if he wants to stay and play in that system or decide to go to the NFL. But, man, I can't help but think we would see the best version of Sellers in an offense like this if he decides to stay.
Yeah, and I mean, we've gotten a couple early indications, Tyler. Again, don't take any of this to mean, you know, there's nothing final on anything right now when it comes to Sellers. But, you know, a guy with his talent, obviously you think about it, he's going to have options, whether it's, you know, considering the pros, as he should. You know, anybody who's draft eligible who has that type of ability, you should always take a look after any of your draft eligible seasons. We know, obviously, as there were last year, there's still teams that I'm sure would love to have him as a transfer if he was interested in it. But for Sellers, you know, he's not a guy, I think we have enough evidence. LaNorris Sellers not a guy out there that's just chasing money or a brand. Like
he has the option to leave for more money.
Yeah.
Last year. He didn't.
And I think for him, look, it was a frustrating season for basically everybody associated with the program. And so one critical part of this hire was finding someone who could, you know, get LaNorris Sellers back on the right track and towards the player that we were seeing in 2024 late, where you're going into 2025 thinking, man, if that's what it was last year, how about him with another year? Didn't play out that way. And there, you know, a lot of reasons for that we spent most of the season and a lot of this offseason discussing. But finding a guy who can unlock that, it's someone, frankly, that he's going to work well with. The early indications that we've gotten, Tyler, before Briles has even been approved, is that we've heard some buzz that LaNorris Sellers likes the direction of this hire. And so you think about the interesting thing about Briles' offense is they've had a lot of different types of quarterbacks.
Right.
They don't have just one type of guy. I saw some clips of when he was at FAU with Lane Kiffin. He was showing some RPO stuff and said, hey, they were showing some red zone concepts. And he's like, honestly, the quarterback we had here is extremely smart. He's got an average arm, you know?
Yeah.
And so when they're structuring the offense, they're structuring it around that. LaNorris Sellers does not have an average arm. He's had some other guys, you know, he's coached, you know, De'Aaron King and coached KJ Jefferson. KJ Jefferson, big guy like Sellers, but a different type of runner. A lot more like, I remember South Carolina trying to tackle him in 2022.
Yeah, more of like a bulldozer maybe.
Yeah.
Type, he's not somebody.
Not as dynamic.
Not as fleet-footed. Maybe.
Oh, exactly.
Right, like Sellers can make you miss, and yeah, he can run over you too and dump you over your shoulders. But it did feel like, and it's funny. I know Elijah and Preston were talking about it earlier. The measurables between Sellers and KJ Jefferson are actually pretty close, but it feels like when just looking at them, and maybe it's the equipment he wears. I don't know. Maybe he wears those extra like pads or whatever. But like Jefferson just looked like he was about 30 pounds heavier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you would see guys like try to tackle him and you just like, boom, just like bounce off.
Yeah.
Almost. So different types of players. But the point is, like, Briles has had different types of quarterbacks. He's had offenses where you look at it, like, think about Baylor. Man, they ran the heck out of the football at Baylor. What was that bowl game they're in for, like 600 yards?
Yeah, they averaged like
against UNC
300 yards on the ground in one of his couple seasons there as the play caller.
Big run game. Now you look at TCU, they've thrown the football more.
Yep.
Right, and their quarterback is not as mobile. So what you have and I'm sure, you know, they're going to take a deep dive into the personnel and try to figure this thing out. But Sellers is a guy where you don't look at Sellers and go, oh, he's limited with his arm. Nope. He's limited in terms of his running ability. Nope, that's not there. For Sellers, it's going to be honestly about cleaning up a lot of mechanical things and operation of the offense. Can you get him better throwing short and intermediate routes? Can you make decisions easier than they have been over the past couple years? RPO game, like South Carolina has run RPOs the past couple years, but can you take that to the next level, with how you're teaching it and how you're structuring the offense? You start thinking about that. You start thinking about throwing deep balls off RPOs, which Lenore Sellers excels at throwing the deep ball. You start thinking about running him. Like, you're starting to get with tempo, right? Yeah. You're starting to give defenses a lot to think about. But getting there, that's the challenge. But you certainly have a quarterback with a lot of talent, and you have a system that has proven, production.
And the one thing that I can't help but wonder if he does indeed stick around is, okay, how do you shake off all the bad from what happened with Shula this year? Because, again, the expectation was that Shula was going to further develop him off of the success he had last year, make him a better quarterback in 25. Didn't happen. So how much of it is, A, getting him ingrained into the system that Briles is bringing, and B, trying to help him unlearn whatever it is that Shula had put in him that made this year such a struggle?
Yeah, I mean, it is a fair question. And again, I keep saying this, broken record alert. I think there were a lot of reasons, that Sellers did not have the year that we envisioned and that the offense didn't have the year that we envisioned. Some of that was individual stuff. Some of it was schematic. Some of it was the offensive line, the lack of a consistent run game. Like, there's a lot of things in there. And so, to fix it, I'd just go back to the things that I just mentioned. You're running a scheme that's a true system. You can look at it and say, what does South Carolina do with Kendall Briles? And, yeah, it'll be structured a little. We don't know yet if this is going to be a team that's going to be built to run the football more, like the Baylor teams, or to pass the football more, a little bit more like TCU and some other stops, FAU under Kiffin. We don't know yet. But we do know that there's a system. There's a plan. Right. There's a system. I don't think you're going to look at this thing and go, people have used the word identity so much. There's an identity.
Sure.
But it's the Kendall Briles. It's a system.
Yes. We will never have to question what this offense is trying to do.
Yes. It might be within the structure of that. Well, they're passing the ball more. They're running the ball more. May depend on the game. But we have answers to that. And so does just the system in and of itself, just that, is that enough to get Sellers to back where he needs to be? Maybe. Yep. But you also got to look at it. Can you protect better? When you drop back to pass, can you protect better? Can you just run the football more effectively when you're trying to run the football? So many questions in there. But I think the thing that has people excited is you feel like you've got the potential for some answers, in this thing.
Yes. And, again, it seems like Kendall Briles is very open about what his concepts on his offense are, and I don't think we're going to hopefully have to deal with too many generalities like we unfortunately did this year with Shula and his explanations for how things unfolded. We'll continue to talk about this and the transfer portal as we continue on with the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Wednesday here on The Game.
All right, everybody, let's tell you about our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating. You hear about them every Tuesday and Thursday as the presenting sponsor, of course, of the Garnet Trust Hour. And then you hear about them here on The Game throughout the week. If you're looking for a local, reliable, and family-owned HVAC service, look no further. KrantzCooling.com, K-R-A-N-T-Z, cooling with a K, KrantzCooling.com. Tons of 5-star reviews on Google. They've been serving Midlands families and businesses since 1983. Plus, I can personally vouch for them. They've been to my home. They've been to Wes's home. They've helped us with new installations. They've helped us with repairs. You can also join the Krantz Club, which is a maintenance plan that's going to make sure you're staying on top of your home's HVAC system. If you have any problems arise, they can help you. Again, if you need a new installation, repairs, maintenance, anything like that, 803-672-3224. You can text them directly from their website, Krentz Cooling, Krentz with a K, coolingwithak.com.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Nope, dang it, I did it again, Chris.
Tyler, what's going on, man?
I don't know, man. I got a lot of things going on in my head. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, on your Wednesday here on the game. Tyler Ed, Chris Clark, you know the drill. Wes Mitchell, he'll join us at some point. Maybe he's waiting for the trustees meeting to pass, so he can officially say that Bryles is the OC.
I'll tell you, man. Wes and I have been talking a lot, though. Like, yeah. I'm trying.
Oh, he's still working.
I'm like, I'm sorry, Wes. Like, we got to talk. You know, Wes and I have actually, we become, normally we would, during a period like this, we'd try to, like, text, and then eventually you're like, look, this is too much. I got
Sure.
And we always apologize to each other. I'm going to blow you up today. It's my 12th call to you. We actually, because of everything going on, have become voice texters. Voice memos. I don't like when people, I got a buddy who does the talk to text.
Yes, I have a friend that will never put his fingers on the keyboard of his phone. It is all
I know
talk
several
to
people.
text.
And you can always tell because
Sure.
you're like, you talk Tessie that.
And
didn't you?
there's a couple like words that don't quite fit right.
That's
and you're
right.
like, okay, well, he sent it with his voice, not he didn't type it out.
But we started doing a couple of, like, voice memos. Like if you got something, it's gonna take
Yeah.
a minute and a half to. We'd send it to each other, and then like we started joking about. I guess we're voice memo texters.
Yeah.
We're voice texters now, and then we just kept it going because it was like a gag.
Sure.
So we do it now. That's how we've been passing back and forth a lot of coaching stuff.
That is that's definitely because you're both 40, almost 40.
I will turn 40 next year.
Okay, that's right. That's kind of right around that like range
You're
with the
saying
voice
we're getting
texting.
old?
I'm
Yeah.
not saying you're getting old, but I'm just saying that's kind of like right around the voice texting range. I feel like for a lot of people.
I will not do talk to text.
Okay.
Like every now and then, but I won't do it. My wife does it sometimes.
Okay.
I did have like a middle-aged man moment this morning because last night my phone did the new iOS update.
Okay.
And I was the old man yelling at Cloud about
Like,
that.
where's my stuff?
I don't like this.
I don't like this.
What is this? You know, where do you go? And I'm like, this is terrible. I'll get used to it. Like,
Yeah.
but I'm already used to
Yeah.
it, but I complained about
Well,
it.
you're technically savvy. You know, you got the MacBook, got the iPhone. So you it may be momentary frustration, but I don't feel like it's going to take you 3 weeks to figure it out.
Yeah,
like again,
I'll be all right.
You'll be used to it by Friday, and you
I'll
won't
be
be
all right.
talking about it anymore. But yeah, I guess you guys are entering your voice texting phase now.
Yes. Anyway, I don't know why. You
Yeah.
know, I don't even know what you were originally talking about. But yeah, Wes and work and all that.
So do you guys communicate more with each other than you do with your respective spouses? Is that fair? Like, if we had
No.
to put the percentage there.
No. I don't think so. I
Okay.
think the wifey's more text. I mean, my wife and I, we text basically all day.
Okay.
We both work from home, so we see each other at home. We're trying to focus, obviously.
Well,
See
because
each
I
other
mean,
at night.
you're going to see her more in a day than you would see Wes. So I didn't know if that was like
Yeah.
there's more of a balance to the text and talk side of things because you're not in the same place as much.
Yeah, Wes is, number 2 or 3 on the.
Yeah,
on the-
I figured.
if you had like your most frequent contacts,
Yeah.
he's up there. For
Probably.
Sure. I don't know
You're-
where I am for him. but-
Your top 5 of the year. We need Spotify has its Wrapped. You need like a whatever telecommunication service you use send you like your year end Wrapped of here's who you texted the most, here's who you called the most, here's who you FaceTimed the most.
In the earlier days of cell phones, you remember they had the Charles Barkley did the commercial. It was your 5. It was like you picked 5 people, and that you didn't have to use your minutes on them.
Minutes. There's a throwback.
Yeah. So Charles Barkley would be on the who's in my 5,
Yeah.
And if Wes would be in my 5,
Sure.
so I don't use up my minutes on him.
Yes, the days of going to Walmart and buying a prepaid phone card with 200 minutes on it and strategically having to divvy up those minutes. When I was in high school, I still had one of those phones in high school, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit late to the party of actually getting good, legitimate cell service. When you're trying to go back and forth with girls texting, they don't like it when you space your text messages out 15 to 20 minutes at a time because you're trying to save your minutes. Because I got in my head, I'm like, okay, this is just texting with one at the time. Like, all right, I can't use up all my minutes, like just going back and forth because she was texting back really fast. I'm like, if I wait 15 minutes between text messages, I can space this out long enough where my minutes are going to last me.
Interesting.
She didn't like that. She caught on to it. So
Is that
don't
what
do.
I'm not good enough for your minutes.
Not that anybody has to deal with minutes anymore. But I thought I was being smart with that. I was not.
You got to try to fit as much as you can into one text.
You do, and that was another problem for me is I was not an elaborately long texter. Everything was very short.
Yes.
In fact, so Facebook sends me the memories thing every single day, and my grammar was abhorrent back in those days.
Good word. Yeah.
I'm glad I went to journalism school to learn how to write because my God, my shorthand and some of the slang I would use back then was embarrassing.
Well, you have good grammar now, I think.
I try to think so. Yeah. Me and my sister both went to school for. She had something with. She was a communications major, so we both ended up being good writers. I don't have to write as much doing this job now, but I try and keep my vocabulary up to date.
Yes.
So,
very good.
Anyways, I don't know how we got down this path.
Yeah, me neither.
But,
I think it's my fault as usual.
We were talking about the transfer portal, obviously, and that's kind of the next thing is. These hires get made is okay. What moves is it going to be? Guys coming in, guys going out, and all that kind of stuff. And up to this point, because again, the portal doesn't open until January the 2nd, but you can say you're going to go in. You can say, hey, guess what? I'm going to go in the portal. You can put a no contact on if you know where you're going and all that kind of stuff. But up to this point, you've lost Nick Sharp, Xavier Hardy. Michael Smith was midseason, but that still counts. And then Jerron Willis, as far as scholarship players go, that happened the other day. Didn't really talk about that. He's somebody we thought was going to factor in more to the defense this year that just didn't really get a lot of run for whatever reason. Because again, he was one of the guys a couple years ago, like, hey, wow, he's kind of hitting his stride a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, there were some games you looked up and he didn't maybe play at all or very sparingly. There was some he factored in a little bit more. But he was that fourth guy, at linebacker, and ended up actually being I think a pretty important special teams player this year. So I think it's not a loss that you gloss over totally. But you got to think about, Willis has been to a couple different schools now, came from Ole Miss, South Carolina, late in his career. Probably wants to go somewhere he can play. So I don't know. We got to get Wes's opinion. Is this a healthy transfer? I think it's maybe in the middle because you probably, all things considered, would like to keep him because he has played for you. He knows the system. He can go in there and give you some snaps. He can play special teams. But you also understand if he's a guy that wants to go play some little more.
The special teams is kind of like the gray area when it comes to healthy transfers because we focus so much, okay, what do you do offensively, defensively, that kind of stuff. But and if you're not like returning kicks or punts like if Kari Swain or Nick Harbert, you kind of don't get thought of as much on special teams.
Right.
But, like Harber's a really good gunner on special teams too, like going down there, making tackles, forcing guys into fair catches, those kind of things. Like he's a solid contributor all around, guys making tackles, coverage, all that kind of stuff, blocking. Like it's kind of the, Eric Rice had the phenomenal block right at the goal line for Swain's. I think it was his second or third punt return touchdown. One of the ones in the SC State game. It's like, wow, what a great play. But again, you don't really talk about those as much unless it's a wow play like that.
That's right. Yes, I mean, Willis is one. You look at, Sharp. So he started some games down the stretch for South Carolina, had more of an impact than you thought he would have had maybe that impact closer to the beginning of the season, but was banged up, just wasn't there yet. But do you look at that and put it on the same level as like one of South Carolina's better starter, a Nick Harbor, something like that? No,
not quite the same.
Not quite the same. Michael Smith, man, is one where you're looking at it now, and you understand with some of the things that happened, like why he would say, "Hey, I think I'm going to move on." But now you start thinking about him in this offense, you're like, interesting.
Yeah.
Not to say that there's anything at all brewing about him. I haven't heard any of that, right? My expectation's still he enters the portal, goes somewhere else.
You have that option. If you really want to, you can undeclare for the portal.
Can.
Or however you want to phrase it.
Now, I mean, how would South Carolina feel about that? I don't know. Again, this is all very, very speculative, but I'm just saying if you're thinking about Michael Smith just in a very general sense, we're talking about the impact of losing guys. He played more last year than he did this season, but what is, man, like that kid's got a lot of talent. So it's not like you're losing an every game starter who's just been an absolute production dude for you. No, but when you look at the potential, and you look at you do have a need at tight end next year.
Yes.
You're like, man, that one kind of in some ways stings, but you also understand why South Carolina moved on because you got a guy who wanted to redshirt in the middle of the season, and that sometimes signals some other intentions.
Right.
So you understand why it happened.
Yeah, because you'll lose Dingle. You'll get Hunt back. Are you just losing Dingle at tight end? I know we ran through this the other day.
Hunt can come back.
Hunt can come back. Okay.
And I think from what I've heard, there's some interest in coming back. But yeah, you lose Dingle. You got Mike Tyler right now. Again, all this is assuming no further attrition. I mean, anybody on the roster could.
Who knows at this point?
Who knows at this point? Like they're working through all those things.
Speaking of the transfer portal, a couple of U-Haul All-Americans in the portal once again. We'll tell you about those coming up next to wrap up the hour. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head, Chris Clark, wrapping up the hour here on your Wednesday on the game. Again, tomorrow morning, the Board of Trustees will meet to approve the contracts of Kendall Briles, Randy Clements, and Stan Drayton to officially become members of the South Carolina coaching staff, and we'll get all the details of the contracts and salaries and all that kind of stuff when that does become available coming up tomorrow morning. I've been talking about the transfer portal a lot in this hour, and it's always so interesting, especially with quarterbacks, because, again, it's the most important position that we pay the most attention to. There are certain names that you're like, man, that guy transfers a lot. TJ Finley was a notable U-Haul All-American, played at what? He ended up at Georgia State this year, played at like 7 different schools or something crazy like that over his college career. Got a couple guys creeping up on that too. Jackson Arnold, for one, is now getting set to go to his 3rd school. Started off at Oklahoma, obviously bad first year as a starter there, ends up getting benched, leaves, goes to Auburn. People think, okay, Hugh Freeze going to get him fixed, going to get him right. Ends up not even starting by season's end. Ashton Daniels started the Iron Bowl a couple weeks ago. Well, he has now entered the transfer portal once again, and it gets to this point where it makes the question of, like, are Power 4 schools still looking at this guy, or is he going to have to go like the G5 route? And he's got a couple years of eligibility, so he can rehab himself, so to speak, play at South Florida, put up some good numbers, and then maybe find his way back to another P4 school. But, he's kind of gotten chewed up and spit out in his 2 years as a starter in the SEC so far.
Yeah, that one's tough to figure out. And, Jackson Arnold was a guy that was pretty darn highly rated.
They felt good telling Dylan Gabriel good luck when he left for Oregon. It's like,
Exactly.
we got our guy. Jackson Arnold, he's the truth. He's the next guy.
And I think you do have to not give up on guys who have talent, which Jackson Arnold has talent.
Yes.
He can throw the ball. He's mobile. He's a runner. Like, look at this hand he was dealt his first year, 2024. Oklahoma was horrific on offense. They had, 5 receivers out. Their top 5 receivers, not just 5 random receivers. Their offensive line was horrid. They had to fire their OC. Now that's not to say that quarterback play didn't factor in at all, but that was a tough hand.
Yep.
And so you kind of give him a pass. Well, then he goes to Auburn. And look, a lot of the conversation after Hugh Freeze left is not, and you kind of saw that, like, after Freeze left and Durkin took over and they changed how they were doing things on offense, they started moving the ball more and scoring more points. On one hand, it kept being said that Hugh Freeze had a quarterback problem, which I think is true to the extent that they didn't go out in the portal and get other guys when they could have that weren't Jackson Arnold. Like, they probably had some better options that they didn't go for. Cam Ward was one, right?
Yep.
Chose to hitch his wagon to Peyton Thorne. But also, there were clearly some problems with how Hugh Freeze was structuring the offense, too, such as, let me give you a good example, let's have 3 play callers, 1 for each down, or whatever that was.
Yes. Can't forget about that.
So, what was he kind of dealt a bad hand there, too? Yes. At the same time, he's not a guy that was playing very well, even given those things, and he wasn't, playing with a lot of confidence. But can he get it back? I mean, if he finds the right situation, maybe.
Yeah. The other one, real U-Haul American here, Max Johnson.
Oh, my goodness.
Getting set for his 7th year of college football, and he goes by 2s. So he comes out of high school, goes to LSU for 2 seasons, spends 2 years at A&M, has been at North Carolina the past years, got hurt in the first game a year ago, so missed that entire year, and then ended up getting benched this year. Did start 1 game for Bill Belichick, but I'm assuming between injury and COVID, he has at least 1 more year of eligibility, and he has to be on to his 4th school for his 7th full year of college football coming up in when
And his brother Jake also in the portal.
Jake is also going to be
He's
in the portal.
a year younger, right? Or is it 2 years?
A year or 2 younger.
A year or 2, yeah.
Because when I want to say 2, because when Max was a senior at Oconee, I think Jake was a sophomore.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think they're 2 years.
Yeah, I think they're 2 years apart, but maybe a package deal to go somewhere else and continue playing his brothers because they've been in the same place for the past handful of years. But he's definitely going to be that man, maybe the oldest player in college football next year, wherever he ends up.
And he won't have a 2-year stay this time. I don't think
so.
Unless he gets an 8th year. Interesting thing about Max Johnson, you probably remember this, Tyler.
Yep.
The offseason before when Spencer Rattler transferred, there was a time period where it very much looked like Max Johnson and Jake Johnson we're both going to transfer to South Carolina.
Yep.
And if that had happened, if it happened earlier, then maybe Spencer Rattler never happens, which is kind of wild to think about. But they ended up getting a, offer from A&M.
Mm-hmm.
They end up going there, and history changes. But that was actually pretty close.
He was coached by Zeb Nolan's dad at Oconee County High School.
That's right.
There's
a tie.
South Carolina connection. I'm sure there are other connections, but that's one that pops up the top of my head. But yeah, he's still going, man. He's still going. It's crazy.
Wow. Does our guy from what was the guy? Is it Cam McCormick? Always mix the name up.
He's finally
the 9th year
done.
guy.
Yeah, he played.
But he's got the
9
record,
years.
right?
Yeah, I think he's got the record. I cannot imagine there's somebody that's played 10 years of college football. If
Never
so,
know.
wow. Good. You better be a doctor, lawyer, or something along those lines.
Yes.
Because use that scholarship to your advantage. So there you go. You're U-Haul All-Americans in the transfer portal. We'll continue talking about the latest with the South Carolina coaching hires coming up next on the Halftime Show. Myself and Bill Gunner on your Wednesday on the Game.